you guys some tea right now. So, okay. Just some context, that first picture read. I read her Washington Square Park, she was cool, but then I felt very threatened at the end because the girl she talked about, who she thanked, that's my ex-roommate who hates me, and she was here because she's dating my ex-boyfriend now, and I mentioned my ex-boyfriend in this piece, so I'm very glad that they left. And this is my can diary, because the readings last week went very long, so I didn't read it then. And I would have been very nervous if I were still here. But yeah, here we go. It's called Two Truths and a Lie, because for every two truths, there's a lie. It was so gorgeous, I almost threw up. I don't remember what, but it was. The coast of Nice, I think, as the plane landed. I had the road to myself, so I masturbated silently in the corner of the plane when the lights went off. I lied, I didn't have the road to myself. Not the entire row, but no one was by me, and then there was the aisle, and then there was a boy who seemed to be younger than me. I think that because he was really skinny and he spent all of his waking hours of the trip on his iPad. I always planned to read on planes, but what happens instead is I sleep because I party too much in New York. And then I wake up within 2 hours of landing, and I try to read, but I feel so giddy by the time that I wake. That I read and I read, only to realize a page later, maybe even two, that I had not retained a single thing, let alone the details. It is as if I was, I was drunk when I read this. It's as if I was Bella from college, the time I showed her Pierre Le Fou, and she spent the whole time the film was on shopping online on her phone. And even if she spoke French, and she doesn't speak French, that's no way to watch a film. But there on that plane, the format was literature, the language, an English dub, because that's what a novel translation is it not? It's a dub. I really want to read this book properly, but this was neither the time nor place. Bella wanted to watch Pierre Le Fou. She must have wanted to watch the film. Why else would she have posted a still on her Instagram? Maybe she wishes her brain would have or could have watched the Pierre Le Fou because she considers me cultured. I sure wish I had retained the novel that Zane lent me for my flight, beyond the fact that it's written from the perspective of a 14-year-old girl. And even that I only retained because I read it on the back when Zane gave it to me. And I want to be everything he wants me to be. My enthusiasm bites me in the ass. Speaking of biting me in the ass, Zane used to brand me after sex, and I think he did it because he wanted my boyfriend to see it. And I think that because he stopped branding me after me and my boyfriend broke up. Once I lied and said it was Annabelle. She does this. Speaking of Zane, I was talking about coming on the airplane, which I did twice. And the part that really got me off was trying to maintain discretion. And I was also very, very drunk, so after coming twice, I passed the fuck out, and I woke up not far from Nice, which is, like I said, why I couldn't read on the plane. But now I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm writing this on a boat, but I'm getting ahead of myself because this is the second boat. So let us return to the Nice landing, and something funny about me calling it the Nice landing is that on night one on the first boat, I got in a conversation about the moon landing. Tommy was convinced it's fake until Paul changed his mind with a little sentence, but Tommy was very drunk, so I don't think it meant very much. This is part 2. Hold on, where? Here it is. This part's called Horny. C'est moi tout ce que je veux. This is the only French phrase I learned on my trip, and it means, you can do whatever you want to me. I've never been in a hornier room in my fucking life. Is a boat a room? It wasn't above the deck. We were below it, surrounded by walls, enveloped. That's a room, right? Whatever. It doesn't matter if it was a room. All that mattered is that it was horny. Of course the room was horny because the boat resembled a pirate ship, and pirates are criminals, and crime makes people horny. This was after Charlie XCX and Young Lean were already gone. Young Lean, people ask when they hear? Yeah, I reply. But like, Young Lean has already been to Actors at my old apartment, so like, it's not that big of a deal. Eventually the room, if it's a room, spiraled into drug-fueled debauchery. Fireworks were set off on the boat deck, which eventually led to the boat captain hiding out at sea so that he didn't get arrested. But when he docked, he did. The boat captain was a count who lives in a castle in the French countryside. He's the captain's son. He can take 2 women to his chambers if he wants to, said the captain's lady or wife or mistress. Whatever the fuck she was, with the French, you never know. This happened on horny night because the captain's son brought a girl but was flirting with another girl, and the one girl started to cry. I eventually grabbed a woman's ass because she was in her underwear because she spilled red wine on her skirt and didn't want to transfer it to the yellow velvet sofa on which she wanted to sit. Her ass was very, very nice, so she told everyone they should grope her. Hadrian Beloved went first. That's a weak grope, she said, which is funny because Hadrian is canceled. You would think a canceled man at least knows how to grope a woman. Then she looks at me and says, "You look like you know how to grab a woman's ass. Show 'em how it's done." So I reached toward the bottom of her juicy butt and spread my fingers wide to cover as much area as possible. Then I gripped and I lifted, finishing the job with one little jiggle. "Wonderful work," she said to me. "Your friend can learn a thing or 2. I ended the night going home with someone I see almost every Sunday at KGB, but I've never gone home with before. But I won't tell you who, because what happens at Cannes stays at Cannes. Don't expect this to happen again, I said to him as I left. What happens at Cannes stays in Cannes. Last part. Hold on. I wrote this out of order. Okay. Watching the fish swim. Gathering my memories. The first thing I did here in Cannes was walk to the marina and sit down to read my book because everybody was still asleep. Now the last thing I'm doing is sitting at the marina. And I fell in love last night. Well, not in real life. But he held me tightly as we fell asleep. And it was hot under the covers, but we couldn't push them off or the mosquitoes would have bit us more. So we sweat quite a bit, and our sweats mixed, and that's how we ended up in my dreams, I think. In my dream, we made love after meeting on the night that was both of our last night in the same place, which was just like real life, except in my dream we were in Zurich, not Cannes, which is where Georgian lives. No, he's not Georgian, but Georgian is his name. He's actually Romanian, which is funny because my friend Leah, whose boyfriend is Georgian, hates Romanians, but I digress. In Zurich, we explored abandoned buildings that were built into a hill on the side of the road. And a passing car must have seen us enter because eventually the cops came. Georgian, hurry up. I didn't wait for him though because I was in a foreign country and he was home, and I was scared of what they would do if they caught me. And when he caught up, he wasn't mad. In fact, he understood and was glad I was the type of girl who's smart enough to think of that sort of thing. I was glad he got away. When we lost the cops, we lied down in the tall grass under a cluster of stars that surrounded us like fireflies. And we giggled, and then we began to cry. We cried because we remembered that I have to go home to America, that we only had but a night. But then we had a brilliant idea. Let's get married on a whim. Why not? He held me so tightly, almost as tightly as he held me in real life. And we worked out the details of this plan. That's all I remembered when I woke up, being held tightly by the Swiss model I met at the Silencio pop-up at Cannes. We have to check out of our Airbnb at... wait, where am I? Hold on, I wrote this out of order. I don't know where I am. continued at folds. That's what I wrote. Oh, it's in the file. 11 a.m. I know. I remember. It's sad we met on both of our last nights here. I know, I replied. It's strange to think we might never see each other again. I decided not to mention the dream version of ourselves that decided to spontaneously get married because I thought he'd find that weird. I'll come to New York, he said. It was a heaping handful of something resembling a promise. I had a dream last night that we explored abandoned buildings in Zurich, I responded, leaving out the weird part. That's strange, he said, because that's something I do when I'm home. That made me want to tell him the marriage part. But I refrained and I left to get on a 5 and something hour train ride through the French countryside to Paris, where I am now. And this is the last part. This is something I started writing on the train to Paris. I want to be rolled into a cigarette and smoked by a beautiful boy. I want to slip down his throat like it's a tube slide. After the bronchial tubes, I'm in his lungs, the closest I can be to his heart. And pushed back up, back through the esophagus, and once I feel his tongue, I look for 2 teeth I can nestle between. And once he closes his mouth, I'm safe. I will come out from between, and I will start collecting his plaque, which I will snort like cocaine with a key. I will then use said key to unlock the side door and exit his mouth through his cheek. I'll be sure to lock it behind me, and then I will use his stubble to get to his ear, as if his face were a rock climbing wall. I sit for a moment in the hammock created for the interstice between the tragus and the antitragus. I fit so perfectly in here. I curl into a ball. Honk goes a car. The fine hairs in his ear quiver. I grab a fistful and pull them out of their follicles, like the grass my dad never cut. And he must have felt a little pinch because his hand flew to cover his ear, but the strong gust of wind he created blew me away, and I flew through his ear canal, bouncing against the tympanic membrane and landing in a clump of yellow earwax. I pull myself out of the earwax, and then I wipe the earwax off my hands using my dress as a towel. And through my eyelashes and the upper part of my peripheral vision, I see it, the eardrum. I struck it, of course, to hear the sound, which I expected to sound like a bass drum. To my surprise, when the eardrum is struck, it actually sounds like a tom-tom. Once the surface was once again still, I took another step closer to it. And while my nose didn't touch it, the little hairs on it did. And I whispered the words, "I love you." I'm not sure why I said this, but if I did, it must be true. Now I must find his brain to see if maybe he loves me too. I reach into my pocket to find my map, but it seemed to have disappeared. I dug through the yellow earwax. Nope, not there. I must have dropped it while climbing his facial hair. It's scary to be in a body and not know where exactly you were or where to go. But if this is his tom-tom eardrum, his brain cannot be far. Everything beyond the eardrum was really, really squishy. Even the thing that looked like a mollusk shell was squishy. I stuck my hand into the center of the mollusk shell, squishy. And then I used my other hand to help create a hole for my head to go through, and then I wiggled and wiggled and wiggled to get to the other side. I heard it before I saw it, because the brain beats with the heart. It's so big and pink and squishy, I'm not sure where to start. That's all.
Thank you, Cassidy.